As Peggy indicated, our next speaker will be Dr. Jeffrey Silverstein from the Agricultural Research Service, and he will be speaking about USDA's role in updating the National Aquaculture Development Plan. So Jeff, please go ahead.
Thanks, Karen. Good morning, everyone. Having come out of the aquaculture research community myself, it's really exciting to see USDA leadership kicking off this Aquaculture is Agriculture webinar. And I'm glad to be able to spend the morning with all of you, a group of people dedicated to developing aquaculture as a sustainable source of nutrition, jobs, and community. 2020 has been rough, and as rough as it's been for many people, for our farmers and food producers, and especially for our aquaculture producers, this important work has continued. And I'm grateful for the great participation and exchange during the listening sessions and for the turnout today. As Mary D. discussed, USDA initiated an aquaculture working group this year to link up the many interests that USDA has across the different agencies and mission areas. We see that better communication and coordination within USDA will result in better service to our customers and stakeholders. And in starting out, I really want to recognize the hybrid USDA industry planning team that worked to put the events together over the past 6 weeks and today. And I really want to recognize Gene Kim with the Natural Resources Conservation Service, Carl Schroeder and his team at the Ag Marketing Service, Kathleen Hartman with APHIS, Amrit Bart, Tim Sullivan, and Chris Green from NIFA, and Andy Jermolowitz with Rural Development, Chris Vasquez with Farm Services Agency, and Alex Sereno with Risk Management, all of whom hosted sessions. And I want to extend special thanks to the hosts who were always on, Caird Rexroad and Peggy Biga, and especially thanks to our stakeholders who joined and participated. Possibly a bright spot for 2020 was the positive attention that aquaculture has gotten through several different events. And one is the executive order promoting U.S. seafood competitiveness. And I'll come back to that in just a moment. Today, my primary goal is to give a very brief background on the revision and updating of the National Aquaculture Development Plan. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Thanks. So I'm I'm the USDA co-chair on the National Science and Technology Council Aquaculture Subcommittee. The NSTC is a cabinet-level science advisory group to the president. So other co-chairs on the committee are Deeran Babb-Brott with OSTP, the Office of Science and Technology Policy within NSTC, and Paul Doremus with NOAA Fisheries. Other departments and agencies represented on the Aquaculture Subcommittee are FDA, EPA, Department of Interior, U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, Office of Management and Budget, and the State Department. This coordinating group is meant to increase the overall effectiveness and productivity of federal aquaculture development. And over the years, it's been known as the Joint Subcommittee on Aquaculture, the Interagency Working Group on Aquaculture, and a variety of names. Our recent incarnation is the Aquaculture Subcommittee. So let me turn back to the executive order on seafood competitiveness. It was issued in May 2020 and has a number of sections addressing many topics from illegal fishing to aquaculture opportunity areas and promoting aquatic animal health. This section, promoting aquatic animal health, is really led by APHIS. Larry Granger and Kathleen Hartman have been deeply involved here. The section that I'll specifically speak to today calls on the Aquaculture Subcommittee to update the National Aquaculture Development Plan. So next slide, please. So from the executive order issued in May, Section 9 calls for updating the National Aquaculture Development Plan. I think many people on this webinar know, but I wanted to quickly point back to the original call for a National Aquaculture Development Plan in the 1980 National Aquaculture Act. So it calls, I've written out some of that here, the National Aquaculture Development Plan to identify aquatic species that could be cultured. It goes on to call for a program of research and development, technical assistance, demonstration, education, and training activities. Further on in the Act, it calls for, it has language calling for a proposed resolution of legal and regulatory constraints, and further for processing and market development. So the three key points for the National Aquaculture Development Plan are research and development, regulatory efficiency, and economic development. Next slide, please. So this ties in very well with the work that the Aquaculture Subcommittee has been focused on for the past 24 months. We formed 3 task forces, and 2 have moved far along in their work, as I'll describe, and the third group is in its early days. The first group is the Science Planning Task Force that's been chaired by Caird Rexroad from USDA Agricultural Research Service. It includes other representatives from USDA, Department of Commerce, Department of Energy, Interior, Department of State, EPA, FDA, National Science Foundation, and USAID. The 3 primary goals are to develop economic growth through aquaculture, improve aquaculture production technologies and informed decision-making, and to uphold animal well-being, product safety, and nutritional value. The second group is the Regulatory Efficiency Task Force. This has been chaired by Michael Rubino from Department of Commerce, NOAA, and includes other representatives from Commerce, Department of Interior, EPA, USDA, FDA, U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, and Office of Management and Budget. The 3 primary goals are to improve efficiency in aquaculture permitting and authorization programs, to implement a national approach to aquatic animal health management for aquaculture, and to refine and disseminate tools for aquaculture regulatory management. The Science Planning and Regulatory Efficiency Task Forces have submitted strategic plans which are now working their way through the NSTC approval process and should be out for public comment through a Federal Register notice in the very near future. Both task forces have developed implementation plans and addressed requirements in the executive order. Together with the strategic plan for economic development, these 3 plans will form the foundation of our National Aquaculture Development Plan update. So the third critical element of the NADP is work underway by our Economic Development Task Force, co-chaired by Andy Jermolowitz and David O'Brien. And though the team is still forming, an outline is taking shape. And I expect we'll hear more from Andy later this morning, but I'll just briefly give an overview. The plan will focus on how federal programs can support economic development, such as marketing and private investment. And the plan will consider federal roles in public-private partnership as part of the plan. The primary goals include incentivizing industry investment, supporting infrastructure and workforce development, expanding market opportunities for U.S. aquaculture products, increasing public awareness and acceptance of aquaculture, and maximizing the effectiveness of federal programs. So USDA has a central role on the Aquaculture Subcommittee and has played important roles in each of the task forces and their reports. At USDA, we recognize that aquaculture is agriculture, and we have many dedicated employees at USDA supporting these efforts to help sustainable aquaculture development. The input that we've received through these listening sessions will inform our work at each of our agencies and on these multi-agency committees. I know that, speaking for myself, I don't have the guts or the tenacity to be a fish or a shellfish or a seaweed farmer, but I am grateful to be part of this team supporting our aquaculture industries. So thanks very much. I look forward to the rest of the morning.